I am Bhargav. Previously, I was in Ahmedabad in 2016 till February. I was working on an internship with one of the professors, and then after I felt like I needed to move out of Ahmedabad. So then I applied for jobs with NGO. So then I got offer from one of the NGOs which works in Gujarat and Rajasthan, but I wanted to move to other place, so I took that up, and then I worked with Unnati for a period of about 6 months. Sorry, this was in 2017. So then I worked on like different activities over there. Mainly, it's a grassroots based NGO, so they work with community. They try to like organize activities which are around community participation to make the community aware about development issues. Basically that. One of my classmates, Asaf, he had applied for this fellowship. Asaf had got through this program. I kept asking him how is the program, etc. And so when the applications rolled out in 2017, I applied for it and got through. Yeah. I wanted to explore the urban space, but also I wanted to break out of my disciplinary comfort. So I wanted to engage with urban in a like a very interdisciplinary way, which I think the expectation has met to a great extent, if not entirely. But that was one part. Like I understood urban from a like a very social science, socio-political kind of context, and I also thought that maybe like engaging it through how like architects think about it, how designers think about it, how consultants, advocates think about it would be like really interesting. So having known about the interdisciplinarity nature of this fellowship, I thought it would be a good idea to apply for it. I have worked with different fellows who are from radically different disciplinary backgrounds. So there are like architects, there are like people who come from development sector, people who are from public health, people who are engineers. So it's always good to know perspectives from them and sort of like work on outputs which require you to have inputs from like diverse disciplinary areas. I think for me it worked out because it came at the right point of time. I had a specific kind of training in social sciences, and therefore this fellowship allowed me to take that further and experiment with different methods, different skills, and thereafter to break forth from your discipline, but also stick to your discipline is a kind of really interesting space. I think one part is definitely engaging with people who come from radically different disciplines. That is one part, but also IIH as a space is very democratic, and everyone over here, from faculties to people who are into consulting, and everyone, the admin staff or the housekeeping staff, everyone has it's a kind of space where like uh, you can like speak with everyone, and you don't have to be in that space where like there would be like questions around. But so in that space, and there are people who are always accessible. You can like go have coffee with them, discuss with them, sit throughout the day. But at the same time, the space is such that there are so many people who are always doing so many different things. So it's in a way it's also very positive because it puts onus on an individual that if you want to do some work, if you want to get something done, it is you who have to go and approach the faculties or like different people whom you want to talk to. So it's a kind of interesting space. one of the really important takeaways that I have taken from this fellowship is that you need to see things which are outside your discipline, and you need to do that constantly. It does not mean that you have to break forth from your discipline necessarily. You can do that, but you need to, if especially if you are engaging with something which is urban, and like the kind of perspective that IIHS has on urban, I have not seen that kind of perspective in different institutions which also deal with urban. Urban as a sociological concept is like really fascinating and the buzzword among the sociologists. So I think they should really take this up. Very crucial things like how to go around Excel, something as basic as that, doing Excel, making graphs, going deeper into those things, how to use designing softwares, online designing softwares, and video editing softwares. So all these things have like they will be handy to you at some or other point of time in your life, and it's important to like so. Also, one of the things that I am taking away from here is that your output, although your discipline might be very rigid, but your output may not be. So your output could be in a form of, if you are doing a PhD, then there are like certain restrictions that it need to be a kind of written output, but here it's not that. So your output could be a film, a documentary, a map, or a street play. So those are the kind of like interesting things that you can experiment. I think to experiment with your outputs is like for that IHS gives you a lot of space to do that. The structure has worked for me, but at few points I also found it a bit difficult to catch up, because uh, the commons, I felt it was like really engaging period for a lot of us, and the way it was designed also worked. But I thought that the commons needed to be a bit stretched further, because after commons you need to pick up your electives accordingly, and it's a 2 month period I feel is somewhere down the line bit short for us to realize, okay, like which specific domain do I need to pick up and hold on to. Because in terms of career, it's something which is really important. If I choose uh, uh, if I choose climate change compared to sanitation, then I am taking that with a conscious thought in my mind that okay, I want to explore this area, I want to go into it. But if the trade-off is like really confusing between sanitation and climate change, I mean, you don't get much to have a say over there. You need to pick one out of the two. I'm currently working with Garima Jain, and she is my project mentor. And there's another colleague of mine, Leona, who is also my classmate. And there are a couple of other people from IIHS who are a part of this project. The project tries to make a diverse set of case studies through which leadership is basically emerging from disaster prone areas. In different kind of disaster prone areas there might be different examples, different context in which leadership comes out. And it's somewhere down the line, it also thinks about how can the community leadership, community participation, community resilience could be made stronger and strengthened over a period of time, such that awareness about disaster, dialogue about disaster, things you can do around disaster, a kind of multi stakeholder kind of approach where you have to engage with actors who are into development sector, government, state, private sector, and how to sort of have everyone on the same table and talk about disaster. And sustainability is, I think, right now the keeping the world into mind, sustainability is right now the key area in which everyone needs to focus. So in that sense, I think this is a really important project that we are doing right now. Yeah, I think having an internship as a part of the fellowship is really important, because the fellowship gives you certain kind of training, and the fellowship should the program should also throw you out in places which are outside your comfort zone, and basically tells you directly that okay, we have taught you this much, now go and apply this on field, do things on your own, take up charge with yourself. Life has been really good. I've made some really good friends from the UFP and outside UFP. People over here have been amazing. It's definitely a kind of place, a kind of institution that I will sort of down the line in future, I'll somewhere have memories of it. Also, the other thing that IHS provides you is like you have to work with fellows. So on that front, you are free to do anything. You have a democratic say in all the decisions, but you also have to work with faculties. And while the faculties will not make you realize about like hierarchies at all, but at some point you have to work with that, because that's also a practical aspect, and whichever organizations that you join in future, that will be an inherent part, that is the reality outside IHS. So somewhere that has been there. It took some time for people to find that out, because IHS is such an interesting and democratic space, but it has maintained that kind of thing in a very subtle way, I would say.